Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to After Hours with Alex Stein right here on Real America's Voice. And we're talking with the legend, Don freaking Brown, about this freaking war in Iran. Now, Don, I got to call you out, though. I like you, Don. You're a smart guy, former federal prosecutor. What is it? I didn't even realize you were a lieutenant commander in the Navy, so you're obviously very, you know, you're smart. You have a better perspective than most people. I know you've been defending Hegseth like crazy. You love this war. Is the MOU good? Is the war restarted? What's going on? Has your opinion changed? So give us the cliff notes too on this Iran war, because I know a lot of people are frustrated with it, if we're being honest, on.
Well, let me be clear, Alex. I don't love this war or any war. And I have a relationship with Pete Hegseth. We work very closely together and Pete put his neck on the line to help us get some guys out of prison that were being prosecuted under Obama's suicidal rules of engagement. So I know the guy, I know his heart, I love Pete. He gets a bad rap, but in some quarters, but the guy's an American hero, and just had an op-ed come out in American Thinker defending him against our lame duck Republican Senator Tom Tillis. As far as the war goes, people say, well, did we do the right thing? My first answer to this, and I've probably been interviewed a dozen times, Alex, since the 1st of March, since hostilities broke out. I don't have access anymore to classified information to give a solid answer on it. Donald Trump has been consistent for 30 years on his position about Iran. They can't have a nuclear weapon. The difference between the military operations taking place in Iran now, everybody wants them wrapped up, versus the forever wars under George W. Bush and under Lyndon Johnson in Vietnam and 20 years in Afghanistan, is we are not committing a huge plethora of ground troops. And I've got a son that served in the 82nd, 173rd. He's still on active duty. So this is personal to me. But I have been predicting from the beginning that the war itself will be over by June. And the reason I said that, of course, is there's some common sense reasons for it. When gasoline spikes, it hurts Republicans. Gasoline's now coming back down. I think we're going to see this thing very, very calm in terms of military action between now and November. See what the Iranians do. But no, I'm not I point out all the time Dwight Eisenhower, who is, in my opinion, the greatest general in this country's history, other than George Washington himself, warned repeatedly about the military-industrial complex as he was leaving office the night before John F. Kennedy was sworn in. So I'm not in favor of war, but at the same time, I don't believe Donald Trump is going to leave office, allowing Iran to have a nuclear weapon. But I think we're going to see a pause, and you can't trust the Iranians. And the sooner we can disengage, the better. That's the way I feel about it.
Well, yeah, I don't think we can trust the Iranians whatsoever, but I mean, I think you nailed it. And I mean this with all due respect, because you know better than me, and I'm not saying that facetiously. It's that we cannot let Iran get nuclear weapons. You and I both agree. Donald Trump agrees. I'm happy. He's kept that same message for 30 years. But if we're being intellectually honest, let's just call balls and balls or strikes a strike. Even if they had enriched uranium up to 100%, they don't have a way to get that nuclear bomb. They don't have a delivery method to get it from Tehran, Iran, to San Francisco, to Miami. They don't even have a delivery method. Yes, they could give one to Israel. They could go to Europe. They allegedly they can go about 4,000 miles. But if I'm not a mathematician, but we're 6,000 miles away. So not only do they need the nuclear weapon, they also have to have a delivery method that's going to be able to, subvert all of our radars and get through, our strategic defense. So I guess the idea of using weapons of mass destruction to scare me that we're going to get blown up by Iran, I don't think that that's actually a real possibility. And that's where I'm at when it comes to the threats of nukes from Iran.
Well, let me push back a little bit with a geostrategic reality that most people aren't thinking about, and that's EMP. The problem is not just delivery of an ICBM that's carrying a warhead. That's the problem. And they might not have, and I agree with you, the technology now. They can develop the technology over the years, and that's an easier gap than developing the weapon itself. But above and beyond that, you put a satellite 30 miles over the United States and detonate a nuke, the EMP danger is the real danger. And we don't have, in my opinion, adequate defenses against an electromagnetic pulse attack. So it's a concern. And of course, even if they can't hit San Francisco, if they hit Tel Aviv, if they hit Paris, if they hit any, and right now, even after the ceasefire, and even after the war broke out, they start attacking, Sunni nations across the Gulf that were not even part of the war. So the only real solution to the Iranian problem is to kill the mullahs. I hate to be blunt about it, but unless that regime is taken out, they're going to be a cancer that resurrects itself. We hit them pretty hard back in the 80s. When they mined, a couple of our ships got hit by mines going through the strait. We hit their navy and virtually decimated their navy back in the late 80s, and they've rebuilt. And they will rebuild again. You can't negotiate with them, and there's not a real easy solution here. But that's my concern about the nuke danger, and that's a concern with North Korea also right now. And most Americans aren't paying attention. A lot of things we're not paying attention to. That's one that I worry about when I go to bed at night.
Well, and we only got you for a couple more minutes. Explain that electromagnetic propulsion. What is an EMP weapon? Can you give us I keep saying cliff notes because it's a complicated thing. And how do they use that? How would they use that against us?
Well, any adversary electromagnetic pulse weapon is when a nuclear bomb goes off and the power from it basically short circuits all electronics. Right. So like my Ford Explorer outside runs off a computer. Your Tesla, whatever you drive, runs off a computer. Our cell phone right here runs off microchips.
So everything would get fried. Everything would get fried immediately.
Right, exactly. And that therein lies the danger. And we've got to address it. I wish the Armed Services Committee would address it. We need to harden, our communications and need to take everything underground. It's a cheap way of launching an attack that just totally off everybody's radar, but it poses a real danger. And the danger is through a satellite, which can be just as deadly in the long run as an ICBM if the problem isn't dealt with up front. So that's something we got to keep an eye on. Alex certainly is.
Don, I watch a lot of, this sounds good. I mean, not great, but I watch a lot of gambling videos. They play Texas Hold'em, and they play Baccarat, and then I watch these guys on 47th Street. They sell these watches in New York City, and they're always like, I'll flip for 42,000 or 38,000. They'll flip 4,000 up and down. I guess this is my question. If we can do serious business and we can flip coins and, as human beings, we can usually figure out a way to somehow talk it out, right? Why can't we talk it out with Iranians? Because I keep hearing this from you, and a lot of people are like, it's the only way to do it is regime change. But is that really, and I'm not saying that to be naive, really, you don't think it's impossible to talk to the people of Iran? It has to end with their future destruction. Is that really the truth, Don?
Well, first of all, I'm not advocating regime change. What I'm saying is the only way it's going to be changing if you take out those mullahs. The great Persian people are one of the greatest empires in history. The Iranian people are great people. Lots of Christianity is exploding there under the radar. The problem is the radical Islamic Sharia philosophy that Shia Islam advocates. And you're dealing with people who think they're going to go see 72 virgins. So you're not dealing with anything that's rational at all. If you were dealing with rationality, if these people were rational, they would not be attacking their neighbors across the Persian Gulf and Qatar and the UAE and others that aren't even actively involved in this war. Other than, of course, they do host some of our military assets, but they are not. It is not a rational philosophy. It's a philosophy that cannot be rationalized with because it's built upon a series of beliefs where logic doesn't matter. And, going back, I was serving the Navy during the Cold War, and the Russians and the Chinese, and we have nukes, and as evil as the communists are, they're not so stupid to know that if they try something, we'll blow them off the face of the map because we've got one nuclear submarine out there, one Ohio-class submarine could take care of that today if we needed to. But Shia Islam is not that way. And that's what we're fighting. We're fighting a philosophy that is not rational. I do believe the Iranian people, the great Persian people, are great. It's a great nation, but the leadership is totalitarian, and that's the problem that we're dealing with.
It's going to be a tough problem. I hope we get it solved soon. And the gas has not gotten too high, so it hasn't been too bad if I'm just talking about how it's affected me personally. All right, Don, how can people find you and support you before you go?
Sure. You can find me at my website, Don Brown Books. You can email me, donbrownbooks@gmail.com, brownfornc.com. Find us on our books are on, Amazon. And so send us an email. We're happy to correspond with our readers. You can find me also on American Thinker. Go to American Thinker and type in Don Brown. You can find all my articles there and do a little reading and help you sleep at night. So, but I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. Really do.
And one word, because we're actually running over. The military-industrial complex. If they could pick the Democratic president, like AOC, who would the military-industrial complex want as the president from the left?
They want Hillary Clinton. They want somebody who's a warmonger. They want warmongers.
Okay, Hillary.
What they want.
Yeah.
And so you pick the most warmongering Democrat, and that's who they're looking for.
All right, guys, everybody go follow Don. All right, guys, we got more After Hours with Alex Stein coming up right after these commercials.